Okay, welcome to a new episode of the Holistic Actress Show. Today I'm here with a special guest. He is my teacher and he's a very well recognized teacher and therapist in the field of trauma and somatic. And he's also an activist, founder of the Institute of Santa Fe Shame Based. Welcome to David Bedrick.
Thank you for inviting me. It's so good to be here.
So good to be here, and I am always so nervous when I have to introduce a guest.
Mhm.
It feels so mechanic. I don't like it. I like when the conversation gets along and it becomes a little more intimate and spontaneous,
Yes,
especially for somatic people like us, because we are all about body and self-awareness and following the truth moment by moment. And I hate to follow, a schedule or, a dialogue imposed. And I know you can understand me.
I totally understand. I just did a talk a few weeks ago in Romania, and there was 700 people, and they said you have only a certain amount of time. So I put together a slideshow to organize, slides that I can speak to, and that's what they wanted. And as soon as I started, I realized I don't want to follow any of those slides. Even though they gave me the clicker, slide one, and then would speak relative to those slides, I wanted to break the rules, and I did. So
And you did it. That does not surprise me, because I know your work, and even in the 10 months certification program, you really were not following any rule. That's
exactly.
what that's what I loved about the thing, because none of us were knowing where you were going to.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I think this is really part of your inclination professionally, following the intelligence of the body and just going to the direction.
Right. The intelligence of the body, the intelligence of the field, which means the body of a group, right? Or the and then the intelligence of what I would call the spirit, whatever that means, something that's not only inside of people, that has a flow like a river, and then you get on that river, and then the river decides. You still navigate, but the river still decides the bigger turns. Yeah.
Do you like it to be in public, or do you prefer it to be on screen?
I love both. I love being in public is great. Maybe this is one way we are similar. I love audience, um, in the sense that it brings out something in me. So I get nervous, but as soon as I get in front of people, the part of me that's nervous turns into energy and passion. So I don't have to get over it. And I know, because I've been teaching for 40 years, then I know that that will happen. So I used to think, what am I going to do about my nervousness? How will I calm myself down, regulate myself so that I can be more confident? And then I realized my confidence comes from knowing that when the light goes on, something will happen that I can't control. And if I get on that river and let it flow, it will work. Not me, but it will work.
I love that. I love this because also this is something that I've learned as an actress in my path of in my training of as an actress. So always my coaches would tell me before going on stage, just don't think about what you are supposed to do, but close your eyes and do body self-awareness. So if you are nervous, your character is going to be nervous. If you are tired, your character is going to be tired. That's how you're going to enter the room. Don't pretend to be in a space where your body is not.
That's great.
And
That's
I think that that's like if you're trembling, the character is not trembling, and that's it. And that's how you stop being in your mind and you drop into the body, and then you follow through, and truth is gonna come up, and everything's gonna be okay.
I love that phrase you said, don't try to be in a space where your body is not. James Joyce, who wrote many books, but his first book was called Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man. And I think the opening line of that book is something like, so and so lived a short distance from their body. You know, I can't remember what the name was, but I always loved that idea, right? I'm just a little bit. I live over here. My body lives over here,
Oh
but
my God.
that's common culture, patriarchal culture, also for sure, um, because of the de-emphasis of body and the emphasis of mind and logos and logic over the body. I think, therefore I am, Descartes said. Those thinking became the essence of human. I am because I think, not I am because I feel. Amness doesn't come from feeling, from spirit, from nature, from relationship, from love. It comes from thinking. And so that was not just Descartes' idea, that's a philosophical idea that represents a whole development of the way at least Western culture saw life. So then if you look at a snail and you believe snails don't think, well, then they're they're not elevated. And if you believe that a man is more of a thinking creature and a woman is more of a feeling creature, which many people believed, obviously that has its own bias. Women think as well as men. But if you believe that, then you elevate the masculine, right? And then what is the other de-escalator? You sink the feminine. So you think then the man has a superiority, because if I think, thinking is the issue, and I think better than a woman thinks, then you have create a hierarchy just from the disembodied idea.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know about that, but it's still very alive as a conception.
Yeah.
And I think I'm so glad that somatic is getting to become famous. I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
people talks about somatic now on social media. We see a lot of those things. I think that your work is, I mean, your work really changed my approach to the healing work
Mhm.
because I think it's very honest and it's very truthful and it's very, I mean, it's not full of shit as so many
Yeah,
things,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, that we can see around. And me coming from acting, it just opened my path possibilities on understanding this alchemy that I'm creating between acting and healing and change and transformation, because it was like I was coming from a space where a lot of people were, I think, doing a lot of great things, because also speaking about regulation, and that's what I do as well, speaking about doing the work in the right way, it's important, but beginning from the truth of who you are, of stop neglecting who you are, and of unshaming, because that's your work. I think it's rare to find in a way that feels really truthful, because also, again, we have also to see how people, maybe you pretend to be to do the work and you're actually not doing the work, or you pretend to be honest with yourself and you're not honest with yourself. So it's all about, you know, be present and tell the truth, which I think it's something that you do
Yeah.
very well. But also there's something I usually, when I have guests in my podcast, I love to tell about a little bit of their stories.
Hmm.
And I love your story because you have changed a lot during your life,
Yeah.
your journey. And I think that speaking about shame, because we're going to speaking about shame a lot, this is your topic, principal topic,
Hmm.
um, creates a lot of shame today's, even today's, to understand that we can actually change our path, change our direction of following our truth, even not necessarily at early stage of life. And I love to talk about a little bit those stories where people maybe even found themselves in the middle of their 40s and changing their path, or maybe the 50s, and they say, okay, I'm going to do another direction, and they actually make it. And so
Yeah.
would you like to tell us a little bit of what's been your passage the main passages. And how did
Um,
you find your mission? Like, when was the time that you said, okay, that's my mission, that's what I want to do?
oh, that's a great question. I mean, I can start from early childhood, or I grew up in a home that I would describe as abusive or violent. For me, that meant I had a father who expressed his rage with fists and belts. And that, so then as a child, I was scared a lot. As one would be, because I'm in my own home and my own home is not safe. And that's how my father was most of the time, because he worked a day job and a night job and a weekend job. So whenever I saw him, he would come home in what today might call a mood, not like a mood of I'm sad, a mood of like, and those moods around certain people, that you get near them and you can tell there's violence. It's not like silence, even though they're quiet. You know that if you do the wrong thing, the explosion is waiting to happen, right? So then as a child, I became very careful to not trigger the explosion, which I didn't know was impossible, because the explosion wants to happen, right? You could do that by tiptoeing. You can say, please don't get upset. It doesn't matter, because the explosion is waiting to happen. So I grew up really scared about just being in my own home. It's interesting, Marite, because recently I was thinking, I described myself as shy to someone. And then I thought, I don't think I'm only shy. I wonder why I say the word shy. And then I thought, oh, I was shy as a child. And then I thought, let me think about that a little bit more. And then I realized I wasn't shy as a child. I was just scared. So if you think I'm a shy person, you might say, oh, let me slow down. David's shy. But that's a very different diagnosis label, right? David's a shy kid is a very different understanding than he's a frightened kid. I wasn't shy, I was just scared, right?
Yeah.
So if you
I
think,
love that you're mentioning this
yeah, isn't that
because I think
incredibly different? Yeah, go
it's
ahead.
incredible, because sometimes even we think, I'm so sensitive or I'm so empathetic. And sometimes I ask myself, what if my life would have been different during my childhood? Would have been so empathetic? I don't think so.
Right. Isn't that fascinating? Some things we develop and then they become part of our MO. People see me that way. And then
Yeah.
the disadvantage of being seen as shy, even if people were more sensitive, is they didn't address what was actually going on. That if you're shy, there's no reason to say, is there violence in your family, right? Just say you're shy. Then maybe you can go to classes that help you be more confident. But I didn't have a confidence problem. I had a violence problem, a family violence problem. I'm not like an unconfident person, a shy person. I'm a person living in a condition that doesn't make me feel safe and well. So that happens with psychology so often. That's part of what I call shaming, this inclination to label things without story, without body, and then we treat a person accordingly. So I often say, to your initial question, then I had a mother who was relatively disempowered. So I'm 68. That was a certain generation. My mother died 10 years ago, a little bit more now. So I had a mother who was disempowered, and that meant that the violence that lived in the house with my father, she had no capacity to deal with that, even to notice it, even to agree that it was happening. She was like, I'll cope with this. I don't know what's going on. Nothing is really happening. I'm not trying to put her down for that. Not that it was good to be mothered by someone who was in denial about the violence of the home. That's not a good thing. But that was her strategy. So
Yeah.
relative to the violence in the house, if I said, Mom, this is scary, Dad is scary, she would say, I don't know what you're talking about. They would never be that way. That's not happening. Why you get so upset over nothing? So you could say then that there are two forces in that family system, a violent force that would abuse, that would violate, that would assault, and then another force that says it's not happening, nothing's going on. The first we internalize and live with, something could hurt me inside. I could criticize myself. I could beat on myself the way my father did, only not with the fists and belts, but with inner criticism. But the second, this thing that says what's happening for you, that's not really happening. What's happening, Marite, is not really happening. What you're feeling is because you're a screwed up person. You're making things up. you're just overly sensitive. What you're not really in touch with the world or people or relationships. You're something is weird about you that needs to be fixed. So I got that attitude from my mother's disbelief. Something's wrong with me. What's wrong with me? Why am I like this? I didn't think, how will I deal within a violent system? I think, what's wrong with me that needs to be fixed? Well, how do I get over my shyness, as opposed to, I need help with a violence that's too big for me. So I internalize that mother who says, something's wrong with you. We don't believe you. You make things up. What you're thinking is happening is not really happening. I call that shame. And then I walk around in the world thinking, Marite just criticized me. Oh, no, she didn't. Everything is fine. Somebody just teased me and it hurt. Nah, I just make things up. Something's weird here. I'm kind of scared. Yeah, that's just your fear. There's nothing to be scared about. So I walk around in that world that annihilates my experience. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. I think many people can resonate with that, even without having an upbringing of violence,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of denial in, especially in a certain type of old generations.
Yeah.
And when did you get that there was something wrong, not about you, but about the system?
It's really interesting. When I was very young, 6, 7, 8, all the way up to about 10, 11, somewhere around there, I knew it was wrong. I knew. I was like, what's going on? This is something. And I thought, these people don't get it. How do they not see this is bad? How do they not get that? And I thought, they must have forgotten what they knew as a child. I had that conscious thought, and I thought I should write it down because I'll probably forget too. And I actually started writing journals to remember what it felt like. By 14 or 15, I had forgotten. And I started thinking, things are good in my family. What's wrong? So somehow, I don't know what happened in those years, but some part of me that knew, the child that knows, well, that's bad. This is, you're feeding me something that makes me sick. It's clearly bad. It was that obvious to me, right? Like if you tasted
Yeah.
something that you didn't like, you would kind of go, I don't like it. My system knew I didn't like it that clearly. Yucky, this is bad. But somehow that system, that denial, that shaming system that entered started taking over. And so you could say I forgot. Started thinking I have to fix myself. My family was good. Nothing is going on there. And I didn't know. Yeah.
Why do you think we do that? Because this is something that happens so often. Like we are in our truth as we're a child, and we know, and we write, we protect ourselves. We try our best, at least to have a certain level of understanding. And then as we become teens, we throw everything away
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, or forever, or for a whole generation. Sometimes it takes some children in a family say, I'm going to get rescued from this difficulty. I'm going to become a fundamentalist of something. Could be religion, could be success, it could be making money, it could be being powerful. I'm going to make a rigid identity that's the way I'm going to survive. And sometimes that will stay for a whole generation before that. So it takes sometimes a while before somebody kind of goes, something is wrong with this picture. Um, yeah. And then you ask an interesting question. Why do we do that? And a lot of people have ideas about that, Marite. A lot of people think that's the way we cope and it's the way we survive, and those are survival strategies. I don't think that way. I think, yes, but I spend less of my time thinking about the cause. What's the story that got it there? And I think a lot more about what's happening inside of a person. So let's say a person denies this truth of their story for a whole bunch of years. And then I think, here's the truth. I don't know if people can see, I have like a hand, it's like a fist. And then here's the denial, like a suppress. Let's push that thing down, right? You know something, this is bad. Let's push that down. Like there's a force in the family system, in the cultural system. You're a woman, please act sweet and nice and don't be fierce and powerful. Something oppresses that. Put that down. So then I put that down. And then it goes as if it goes underground. That would be a metaphor, as if it's planted in the earth. And then what happens with that? Then as it's planted in the earth, if it's given some care, some water and some love and some sunshine, something happens underground, like a seed that breaks open. And at some time, if there's enough care, that seed will flower, and it will flower into something greater than the recovery of the child. It'll flower into something magnificent, something very special. So I don't know all the causes, and there's ideas about that that make sense, but I do know that when that seed of our truth or our story or our feelings or our genius or our beauty or our sexiness or our aliveness or our sensitivities, whatever the thing in us that gets pushed down, all those things get pushed down, that if it's given the right care, it can rise up and flower and become something greater than we ever knew. So I count on that truth, that nature is wise, that nature does things. And if it pushes something underground, it can become something just the way nature does it, you know? And that's a trust I have in life, that life is pregnant with generativity everywhere, and it's always wanting to produce 10,000 zillion colors of fish and plants and feelings and people. Yeah. Mhm.
This is beautiful. And I think I was thinking about like something that I really love about your work and your approach on discovering this underground pregnancy
Yeah.
genius container. And that I think I'm getting into this place by myself now, in my own path of healing,
Yeah.
is that it does not necessarily have to be something good, isn't it? I mean, this thing that you bring within yourself, this truth that we have inside, it doesn't have to be necessarily something that has to make you a better person. How many times we see people thriving in life in their craft, either is art or either is some level of capacity, and still being a disaster in other,
Yeah.
like example, relationships. Maybe some people are going to be cheaters for the rest of their lives, and
Yeah.
in the meantime they can write the best romantic poems
Yeah.
to their women, and being recognized, and really making people feel seen and understood. Or maybe, as you were talking, sexuality is such a big topic now, and confusional for what it's my understanding as a woman. Sometimes there's still a lot of shame around my sexuality. So I think that the danger of doing the healing work from a perspective that
Yeah.
stays attached on shoots, in terms of like, if you are in the healing path, you are supposed to become necessarily that type of person who is calm, regulated, aware, good. It's very far away from what healing means for so many people. And I
Yeah.
think that what you do through the unshaming work. So how many times do you work with people who, at the end of your process, the process with you, are not going to become better, but more authentic, and maybe even worse?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I started working with my one of my main teachers, Arnie Mindell, 34 years ago when I was 34, and he recently died a few weeks ago. I'd say, hi, Arnie. Glad that you're still here in spirit. But I went to him because I was really insecure, and I was hoping that that insecurity would go away and he would help me with that. It did sometimes and it didn't other times. And still there are days I think, oh, I'm an insecure mess, just the way I thought 34 years ago. But I've written 4 books. But I fell in love with the right person and I was able to make that happen. But I just went to Romania and spoke to 700 people and have an institute. So other things flowered that I wasn't thinking about. I didn't go saying, "Help me become a writer, Arnie." I didn't even know that would grow in me. I didn't know that seed was planted. but it was. So the things I went for didn't change, but other things happened in my life that wouldn't have happened without his guidance. So that's really fascinating because in the conventional idea of healing, it's a very Western and allopathic notion that almost everyone follows. It's a paradigm. And the paradigm is when I have a difficulty, it's like a symptom of an illness. And healing means the symptom goes away. So I had a headache. Could you heal my headache? And then you put your hands on my head, or you give me aspirin, or you whatever your method is, or you help me connect with my trauma. And then, oh, yeah, I'm healed. How do you know my headache's gone? Right? Or I have a tumor. How do you know it's healed? The tumor went away, etc. Or I have an addiction. How do you know I'm healed? I no longer use or even want to put the needle in my arm. So healing, that is so obvious to people that we don't even question it. Isn't that the removal of the difficulty? That is healing. I assume that. I presume it. I don't even have to think about it. That's what it is. And in that doing, we miss what I would think of as nature. Nature says when something is difficult, something is happening. Something, a force is against another force. Something is growing. It's a pregnancy. It's a battle for life and death. Something needs to be killed so something else can live. That's what happens in nature. But in the healing ideas that are conventional, we don't have those ideas. We have ideas that are inherently shaming. Something's wrong with you. Let's get rid of it. And if it's an important part of you, then I'm saying, let's get rid of you. Because if you have a headache, I can think of many people I've worked with headaches over the 35 years. And I say, what kind of headache is it? Now, there are many kind of headaches. There are pressure headaches. I have this pressure. There are pounding headaches. It's like a pounding. There are sharp headaches. I got like this, like pick in my head. There are migrainal headaches. Oh gosh, I'm just like, I can't see. I have to close my eyes, right? So all these kind of headaches. Now, let's say a person says, I have a pounding headache. And I say, let's make that pounding headache go away. Oh, you can? That'll be so good. But if I'd had an unshaming approach, I would say, I hope you can get relief. Take an aspirin if that helps. But can you please make some pounding? Show me with your hands. Show me with your voice. Boom, 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 boom. Make a rhythm. Boom, 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 boom. And pretty soon, yeah, you're moving. Pretty soon that person has a dance and a pounding. And I say, what would it be like to be like that? I'd follow my own rhythm. I'd break through walls, that barriers in my life. So if I get rid of their pounding without thinking there's something growing there, then I'm getting rid of them. Then I turn them into a calm person. But what about the walls that they needed to break down? What about the rhythm of their life that I didn't help them get in touch with? So I made an exchange, get rid of your pounding, but let go of the energies, the powers, the things that would bring you forward in life. That's a difficult sacrifice. That's a painful sacrifice. Yeah.
Mamma mia. This is
Mamma
really,
mia.
Mamma mia, this is just
Mamma mia. You say that in Italian?
Yes, we say it all the time. Mamma mia, yes, it's so beautiful. And also the way, I mean, it's hard to explain this process. It's really something that you have to do. What do you think about others type of somatic approaches? This is a very typical one, like unshaming. It's something, there are so many different somatic approaches.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with others? Why?
Yes. Many people who study somatic approaches have studied Peter Levine. He's been a very important voice, and he's brought an intelligence to many people. So he was like Brene Brown with shame. Peter Levine has been an important voice and helped. And he would say that I won't get him perfectly, but I've read him enough and listened to him enough to know what his viewpoint is. That essentially there is a trauma in a person's life, and then some of the reactions to that trauma can't express themselves, and they live inside the body. So therefore, we need to contact what I would call the feeling, the sum of feeling, the inside feelings. There is my shaking body, there is my fear, and I feel it inside my chest or in my belly or my shoulders or something. And then he would say we need to feel that, And then if you can help a person get in contact with that, that they can release that, and then they'll be freer of energies that get in the way of their life. Now, I think that's incredibly and brilliant, and the connection with trauma is brilliant, and the focus on the body experience, brilliant. He's not the only one who's done that, by the way, and people have done that in non-Western cultures and indigenous cultures, for sure. So we have it. So we have to just remember that this is in the Western notion that there are many worlds that people have done that, have worked through Soma. But here's where I differ and add to that. One, I think that the feeling the body inside the body is important, but people have other body experiences. People have movement experience. Just like I said, how's your headache? And now my hands go up and they start pounding automatically. As soon as I start talking to you about it, I do that. Or I kind of go, I'm scared. And my hands go right to my mouth like this, right? Or I said, sometimes I'm shy. And look, my hands are like my body went backwards and my hands went up. So that's also body. I call it also soma, but it's not the sensory feeling inside. It's the body
Yeah,
movement.
it's
Yeah.
expression. That's why I do feel such a alchemy with acting, because when I see your work and when I see the work of acting, like I think actors are people who do somatic work constantly and they're not aware of that, because the minute
Yeah.
they have to, give life to a script, and it's like in this moment the character has to feel this way and they have to send this energy to the audience. They have to move, they have to express, and it doesn't have to be in the mind. It doesn't have to be, like an order, because it's going to be fake, it's going to be horrible. But it's
Yeah.
like this automatic instinct and intelligence and genius that the moment by moment life you create on stage or on camera when they say action. And it's just like, I know where I'm going, because the character goes somewhere, right? Exactly as humans. And they just trust the movement. It's just like having this freedom of the body, like free yourself, move the body, be in the body, and just, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'll do it. And this is really magic. And this happens in the sessions, in your sessions, that magic happens. That's how I see this work. I see this work really like an art frame, because you never know what's going to happen and you don't prepare. Like you just be there with your client and follow through and exchange this type of um energy, I think,
I love
capacity.
the way you say that. And if I were working with you, I would think movement, because even when you talk, you're moving, right? You're like this
I'm
and
very
I say
tired.
boom, 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 and your body starts going. So I think feeling inside is great. That would be great. But why not just say, well, you're already in motion. Like that's the body doing its thing. Yeah, you're laughing.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking to I don't remember who was. I think it was one of my classmates in your class. That once, like during one of our class, said, David, he came to you and said, David, I don't know what to do because I'm practicing with Marite, and once like she decides that she wants to have an orgasm, she does it. She's so connected to the body, and I feel like an idiot because I cannot move. I don't remember who was him. I think it was oh my gosh, his name Jim. It was Jim.
Oh.
Yeah, it was Jim telling you, I don't know what to do because Marite, she wants to have an orgasm and she goes for that.
And then you go,
Like,
did you have it in the session? Did you have an orgasm in the session?
I actually did it, but I actually did it. But it was very funny to it was very funny his way of just not picturing that moment. Because
Yeah.
actually I think that the acting preparation
Mm.
got me and all of the people who are into body movement
Yeah.
to really understand somatic in a very deep level without knowing anything
Yeah.
about somatic.
Yeah. Now,
Because it,
do you think that that's cultural for you, right? Like you grew up in Italy, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So do you think that's cultural for you, that people who are like in my view, which could be all wrong, that Southern Europe seems to be more body than Northern Europe.
Oh yeah,
But,
that's true.
but correct me if I'm missing.
I think absolutely so. And I also think that Americans people are more body people than Europeans. So
Oh,
even more,
really?
yes, I do think so. Because Italians actually are people that are stuck very much in their mind. I think the collective Italian trauma is very much about public personas, has to
Oh.
do with the stuckness in appearance and coverage and public personas. So theatric, we have a lot of theatrical things. I don't know what's going
Zoom
on.
Zoom has these strange things now. Like if you say certain things or do certain things, like I don't know what happens, On Instagram too, like if people make a heart, the hearts fly all over.
Today on your live with yeah, so the last live you did yesterday, there
Yeah.
were a lot of hearts and things going on. But yeah, so what I'm saying is that we are very theatrical people, like a lot of pushing and faking in our way of expressing. I think this is very famous in the world, but like real movement, like the truth of like
I
being,
see.
I think it's more of it's more American, because America, they don't give a shit. And we do. So for me, it's a process of unlearning being theatrical and learning to be myself. And I think that's the reason why I studied with people of color in New York City, because those two things really helped me. New York City is the city of freedom, and people of color really
Yeah.
help to get out
Yeah.
of the white type of Italian.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So a couple of things that I want to ask you, and
Yes.
I'm gonna try to make you feel ashamed. No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm not gonna try to do that. Um, okay, no,
Yeah.
the first thing that it's not about really shaming about, I mean, it's about the shaming process, but not making you ashamed in any
You're
way.
not making me ashamed. Okay. Thank
No,
you.
no, it's this thing that again, it's something that I'm learning as a facilitator, and since I've been working with you. So it's the witness role. It's the witness role.
Yeah.
I find as a facilitator that it's been very triggering for me in many different situations with some clients to be neutral and to be a witness. Because
Mhm.
there are some people that they reflect the abuse that maybe I have experienced or that I see in the world, right? And so let's talk about narcissism, which it's a very familiar topic for me. If my
Yeah.
client is a narcissist, um, I find really hard to work with them because first and foremost, many times narcissists, they really don't want to do the work. So it's just a kind of, yeah, they come to do the work, but they don't want to do the work. So
Right.
I feel that I'm not the right person. And that's the first reason. But the second reason is also that sometimes I feel that it's hard to be a witness. It's hard just to back up and say, I'm here to create space to this person.
Mhm.
And then, and I think it's beautiful actually to learn to do that, honestly.
Yeah.
And the more I'm getting into the work and the more I'm, taking my own ego apart, I
Yeah.
find a lot of inspiration. So how do you do that? How do you practice to become an observer?
You have to do that. You have to do that over, you have to do that over time. It's a learning over time that it grows like anything else, like any practice. If you want to study yoga, then you would practice over a lifetime or whatever you would practice, you practice over a lifetime. So being a witness to life, that's that's a kind of a developing eldership, I think, meaning not you have to be older, but it takes time so that you start seeing things, interacting with things, becoming freer to see things. So you have to take the step that's closest to you. So if you say there's people that are narcissists and I'm not such a good witness, then I would say to you, what's the energy of what's the energy of the part of you that doesn't want to witness them? how would you express that? Let's say there's a part of you that's free with me, right? Then the client's not
Yeah.
here. You say, what's really in me, David, is a fist. I want to punch that face. And what's the energy like in you that doesn't want to witness them?
I cannot stand lies. It's just like having somebody telling me lies. It's just like,
Mhm.
what the fuck are you saying to me? You know,
What
it
the
makes me
fuck are
feel
you saying?
so
Mhm.
so angry. Like, you wanna fool me? You're not gonna fool me.
Beautiful. I love that. So then you can't start by trying to get over that. You have to start by saying, I have this energy in me. It's something like, don't tell me lies. I can see right through you. You have to then embody more of that consciously. If it's unconscious, that the person will feel that you're judging them and it won't work. Then you have to bring that in. Then that will allow you to be more that way. Maybe that will chill out over years. Maybe that'll become deeper and sharper. Maybe you are a very, very sharp person. Sharp meaning accurate, precise. Wait a second. I saw that. That's not exactly right. Say more. So I'm still not trying to tell the person they're wrong, but I'm like, that's not the whole story. Take a little longer. Feel that a little bit deeper. Wait a second, something doesn't smell right yet. Let's stay with that longer. So I'm not trying to tell the person what's right, but I'm using the energy that you're talking about. Don't lie to me. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
I'm not with a person, with a friend, I can say you're a fucking liar. That's fine. But with the client, the judgment won't help. But the energy that lives in you, I'm a sharp person. I know the truth from manipulations, from lies, from deceptions. I know those things. And I'm going to listen to those. And when I smell those, I see those, I'm going to stop and go, let's stay there. Something is a little bit off. Say more. So you're going to use the intelligence of that fierceness in you.
Mm.
Then that becomes part of the witnessing power. So then as a practitioner, then I would say you need to allow yourself to be sharper to what is the truth and what is not. And then you need to couch that in a way that's going to be useful for the client. Let's not go on yet. Yeah.
And if I'm
Hold.
not the practitioner, and if I am just the person, let's say, and this is maybe, it can be helpful for every single person. How do you deal with the same situation? So let's say that I'm a student and I have a narcissistic coach, or I have a narcissistic husband, or whatever. What's the best way to get the message instead of doing something that, as you said, it's not gonna work if
Yeah.
I react, or if
Then
I.
the first thing you have to know is what the energy and the expression of the energy is like uncensored. Meaning, like what you would say, don't fucking lie to me, right? So you have to know that that lives in you. You have to move it, dance it, speak it out loud, at least in front of yourself or in front of one other person. So you know, this is what I'm really like with that husband. This is what really lives in me. Then we can decide what to do with them. But if you censor, well, that won't work. That's not going to be good. That won't be right. That'll be hurtful. If you do that and so much that you can't even say it out loud to yourself, then you won't know yourself. And you have to know yourself. Otherwise, shame enters. You start thinking something's wrong with those reactions. You have to have that reaction. If I were free, David, I would say, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm dumping you. I'm walking out the door. Does that mean you should walk out the door? No, not yet. We have to ask you questions. You might say, if I left that person, I would not have a place to stay because I have no other funds. And I'd say, or they're going to beat me if I said that. Let's slow down. First, you have to know what's in you. Now we have to negotiate how much of that energy or words is right for you to bring into that relationship. Maybe none. Maybe you'll say, "Oh, very nice to see you," and you'll walk away with a kind of going, "Screw you." So there's no obligation to bring it out, but with the person that you have to figure out what's right for you, how much, whether that's going to become more and more over time, whether that's totally wrong because it's dangerous, that has to be negotiated. But first, you have to know what really lives in you. Otherwise, you're in denial about who you really are. And that's not going to be good. Then, if you stay with that person, let's say, then not only are you living in a painful situation, but inside yourself, you're thinking something's wrong with you. That will damage your life project. Then you can't write a poem that says fuck you. Then you can't scream at a tree. Then you can't go to a violent movie and say, I wanted to kill that person too. Then you can't write a book. If it lives inside of you and you know it, you can say, I'm going to find all kinds of ways of living that. I'm going to become an actor and find parts that live like this. I'm going to write on social media activist things. There's a lot of things you can do with those energies. But if you don't know what lives inside of you, it just gets held in and it becomes symptoms,
Yes.
relationship symptoms or somatic symptoms or illnesses.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the third stage, the stage next, which becomes like communication, activism projects, creating, right?
Yeah.
So making change. How can we use all of our truths? Let's call them this way, like the discernment, understanding when it's time to talk, when it's time not to
Yeah.
express, when it's what's the best communication. I think this is a very important part of
Yeah.
the becoming. Like I have this program that is called Becoming Yourself, and I work on healing and I work on shadows so that we can, understand deeply the internal world. But I think also that the stage of creating change based on the internal process in a conscious way, as you were saying, is extremely important. And
Yeah.
so what do you think about, let's talk about, for example, the anger that we see in the world, so much hatred,
Yeah.
all of the wars that we are witnessing, all of the injustice that we are seeing. How do you see, for you, it's the best way to, to try to do something and to try to create some level of awareness, to change or support for the best of the community, not really for the sake of expressing our own rage?
Right.
How to deal with all of that?
Yeah. I mean, it it's a mixture of the energy that lives inside of you, what's best for you, and the kind of person you are. Some people are naturally disruptors of status quos, and you can tell them, don't stop being this way in public. It won't be useful, and it won't matter, even if there's consequences, even if they lose jobs, even if they lose all their friends. And then you have to know that person's not going to hold themselves back. We have to help them deal with the fact that they're going to get a lot of pain and a lot of conflict in their lives from doing that. That doesn't mean it's better or worse. It means that's the kind of person that is. And we have to help them get along with the fact that they're like that. Some people are much quieter inside and then they go much more slowly, or they need bigger change to happen. So I once worked with a woman. She was a first generation Japanese American. And I was trying to help her speak up more in her relationship. And I remember telling Arnie, my supervisor and teacher, Arnie, she's having a hard time trying to help her speak up because she needs to learn to do that, but she's having a hard time. And he said, David, you can't push her. It might take a whole generation to change for there to be an atmosphere and a culture that makes it easier for her. Not all, some Japanese, first generation Japanese American women would be very feisty. He said, but some people, they need a change in the outer world to start. If someone's going to come out as gay, then they might be able to do that in 1950 or 1960. But some of those people didn't and would come out today because there's a little bit more of a culture of support for that. So sometimes people can come out and they break through those barriers earlier in their life, and some people less so. So you have to find your own level, and then it's always good to push yourself a little bit or a lot. Can I go a little further? Are the things that censor me inside too tyrannical, too fascistic, too oppressive? Do I have to go past that a little bit more? Can I develop friends and solidarity with people who understand me so that when I say something and I get a backlash, I could say, Marite, help me. I said something really radical and people are yelling at me. So now I have a friend who's going to support me. He's not going to say, you screwed up. Oh, David, I got you. You're great. I love it. Then you need solidarity around you and systems around you and support systems around you and freedom to fall apart when people want to smash you back down. Yeah.
So you don't think that always getting off the comfort zone is the key? Like, for example, so many people they are fear of expressing themselves. So speaking also about social media, I can see this in my skin. So many times I don't say what I want to say because I'm scared to
Give me an
be.
example. What don't you say?
Oh my God. I don't say so many things. Like I don't say so many things in relationship with men, for
Give me
example.
an example. Give us some examples.
Oh my God. I would like to talk about this is what I call the syndrome of ejaculation. I call the syndrome of ejaculation. It's the problem I have with men normally. So they want me and they put me on a pedestal constantly, and they try to seduce me or want to be liked by me. It's all about inner child type of energy that I feel, I
Yeah,
sense, like see me,
yeah,
see me, see me. And to do so, they really use those type of fake seductive kind of approaches. Sometimes they're fake, sometimes they're non-meaning, sometimes they show up through I'm gonna help you, I'm gonna do these things for you, I'm like, or maybe very flattering and pleasing in other possible ways. Sometimes they just show up sending pictures of their genitals on WhatsApp. Like they try to do all the things that they can to get my attention. And if I
yeah.
don't give them attention, the attention that they want, they ejaculate. They really do it, and they do it in ways that it's abusive and it's hurtful. And I sometimes I ask myself, what did I do to entitle these men to treat me
Mhm,
this way? And
mhm.
sometimes the way is like bringing from the pedestal to boom down to rejection, speaking bad about me, doing little sneaky mean things to me. And
Mhm.
I feel like this man ejaculated, he
Yeah.
did it because I didn't do what he wanted. And he is trying to, humiliating me somehow and make me feel shameful for the fact that I didn't give them back what they wanted. And I
Oh,
think it's also, what's the reason to put me on a pedestal? What's the reason to use all those loving words or, flattering things or violent things? Like, I don't want to see your genital on my WhatsApp. Oh, if you do it, keep doing it, like don't punish me then.
mhm.
Stopping serving me with your genitals because I didn't respond the way you wanted. That's
Oh,
some people would like to talk on social media, but I'm not,
oh.
I don't feel this is going to be welcomed.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It sounds good. And when you say that, you have a kind of I'm thinking about that pedestal. And when you say that, you have a kind of a higher station. Like I'm looking down at these people. I'm not thinking that's bad. And they're lowly creatures who don't get it, who,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. What would it be? What I would say, what's it like to be high above people at times? I'm not saying you're superior, I'm superior, but what's it like? What would it be like to think I'm sitting higher at a higher level? What would that be like? Being on the pedestal, not fakely and falsely by these people. What's it like to know I'm sitting on high?
It's cool.
Yeah. What's cool about it?
uh it's cool. There's some magic in that.
Yeah.
There's some magic in that dynamic.
Hmm.
It sometimes I'm not sure if I do something to create that thing in the first place, or if it's just something that happens because people love to project on me.
Yeah, I can tell you one thing that's part of that story for you.
Yeah, tell me.
You don't know your own level. You
Yeah.
don't know your own whatever, the light, the energy, the power. I don't know all the right words. You don't know something about yourself, the energy that comes out that would attract. You don't,
I,
you don't, you
I,
don't own that. You don't walk around thinking, I don't know these words for you. I am an exceptional. Imagine you were a flower, a very special flower, and that it shouldn't have to be a flower, it could be an animal. I'm a tiger in the woods. Imagine you're a tiger in the
I'm a
that's
cheetah, actually.
cheetah. Imagine you're a cheetah, and now imagine you're a cheetah who knows themselves. I am the graceful. I am fast. This fur that shines, that's really me. Not as an ego thing, meaning I'm just know it. I know. You see me move. That's right. That's me. You're looking at a cheetah. I'm fucking bad, right?
Yeah.
The cheetah that knows itself. That's not ego and egotism. That's a real, that cheetah really has that, right? The cheetah is really talking about itself. When the more you own that and live in that, that dynamic will happen less and it'll go and it'll get resolved quicker with people. Mhm.
Okay. Why do you think so?
Why do I
Why?
think that?
Yes.
Well, two reasons. The main reason is I've seen that happen with I've watched that happen over and over with qualities. If I walk around, Marte, and I think, and you say, David, you're really smart, and I say, no, no, I'm really not that smart, then people will start talking to me. Well, you think you're better than people. You think you're so smart, and people will start seeing repressed qualities. But over the years, so years ago, I used to think, no, no, I'm not that smart. I have to tone that down. But after I went to law school, I graduated top of my class in my 40s, and I thought, I think I'm really intelligent. And I started knowing inside, regardless of how I present myself and inside, I have to think, there's a certain genius that lives in me. I'm proud of that. I love that life, God, I don't know, gave me a mind that thinks and feels in a certain way. I adore that about myself. Once I do that, it comes out easier and I have less problem with people. So when you hide your light, whether that's your intelligence or your beauty or your sassiness or your power or your subtlety or whatever the gift is, when those things get hidden, people start to notice it and they interact with it and manipulate it. It draws it in. Things, energies, just like the flower. Wow, look at that thing. Oh, everybody wants to look at it. Or an accident on the road. Everybody wants to look at it until it knows itself. Then it's people still look, but something else happens. Something shifts, and the dynamics in the world start to shift. But you have to know that you have to wear your cheetah beauty, excellence, speed, gracefulness, insight about how it sees the world. It's a vision, whatever the qualities are. You have to wear that all the way. Otherwise, you'll have people will see signals of it, they won't know what they're looking at, and they'll poke at it. Mhm. They'll poke
Oh
at it
my
by.
God.
I'm not saying that it's your fault. This is not the same thing. People are assholes. So there's assholes and there's abuse. I'm not dismissing. That doesn't mean
Now, this
people
is
should treat me.
awareness work. This is
Yeah,
awareness.
it's an awareness. You have to walk around like you are who you really are. Maya Angelou wrote in there's a poem she wrote called um what the heck is the name? Uh Something woman, something Maya. Sorry, I gotta find it. Uh
Yeah.
Maya Angelou woman.
But do you think that doing the trauma work is going to help me or whoever to who can resonate with that to because why do people don't own then their qualities? What happens? It's a trauma thing? It's a trauma response? Is something in
It's
relationship?
partially related to trauma in this way that when we get injured, the injury happens. Then when we get injured, we rarely get witnessed, like me and my mother, right? There's an injury and then we don't get witnessed. Now it depends on the injury. If it's a if it's a sexual injury, let's say to a girl, right?
Mhm.
Then her sexual body and emotional connection with her eroticism is going to get injured. If somebody doesn't see that, if a mother, let's say, if it happened from a father or a grandfather, the mother doesn't say, whoa, I saw what happens. You're beautiful. You're amazing. Your body is incredible. These people, I will protect you from them forever. Right? If somebody reacts that way, she's going to be intact. But if someone doesn't, then that energy that lives in the girl, what did I do? Why do I deserve this? This is sinful, depending if she grew up. So now that's going to get put away. So it's not just a trauma response, it's the thing in her that gets injured, that gets locked up. Then it's not going to be free to show itself. Then I'm going to think, well, if I get sexy, I get sexually abused. So isn't that bad? Right? So it gets or I'm sinful. So things get put away in those early traumatic reactions. Or if my father hits me and I want to punch him in the face, but I'm too scared because I'm 5 years old and I'm going to get beaten. So I don't. I'm not going to punch him in the face. My fist wants to, but my whole being kind of goes, you better not do that because you will get your ass kicked. So then what happens with the fist? The fist goes away. And then if my mother doesn't say, aren't you angry at him? I'm furious. And so I don't see a modeling of fist. Then I think fists are bad. And then I don't say, I want to finish my degree. I'm going to need a fist. I want to write a book. I'm going to write my book. I can't have my fist. So then the fist goes away. So it doesn't look like one trauma response. It looks like things get locked up. Okay, I got to read you a couple of words from Maya Angelou. We can only read a few because we're not allowed to read too many. No, we don't
Right.
need permission. But she wrote a woman called Phenomenal. You know, a poem called Phenomenal Woman.
Wow.
Phenomenal woman. That's me. This is owning. Can you follow? She says at the beginning, pretty women wonder where my secret lies. They look at her, where is your secret? I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model size. I'm not so cute. She's 6 foot tall. She's black skinned. She's big, right? But when I tell them, they think I'm telling lies. I say it's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride of my step, the curl of my lips. I'm a woman phenomenally. Phenomenal woman. That's me. And she goes on and on. And she's talking about, isn't that incredible? It gives me the goosebumps.
Wow.
She's saying, she's owning that, right? I know who I am. And then she goes on and on. I walk into a room. This is how the men swarm around me like a hive of honeybees. She says, I know that it's in the fire of my eyes. It's in the joy of my feet. I know, right? She's not saying, oh, I shouldn't do this. She says, I know this. Anyway, check out that poem.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I'm going
So
to.
she owns that, and now she owns the power of that. And now some man looks at you and tries to put it on your pedestal, and you kind of go, "You looking for something from me? hmm Are you lying to me? I can detect bullshit." And now that person is in their proper place, because if they're manipulating you, then they are lower. You should treat them like lower. And say, "You don't really know the real beauty and intelligence of me. Otherwise, you'd be afraid to treat me that way. If you really want access to this, you're going to have to do a lot of inner work. Let me recommend 17 workshops and therapists you're going to need. And 5 years later, you should contact me. Then you're owning it. Does that make sense? What you're looking at is an amazing thing. What you're attracted to is an amazing thing. You're not up to that. You better change your game if you want some of this. That's the attitude of owning it. So now you're not putting it away. Okay, I should be less of this. Now you're owning it, and now it creates the relationship of the cheetah or panther. Did you say panther? You said
Cheetah.
cheetah. Now you're creating the relationship of the cheetah with the other animals. Whoa, cheetah's coming. Okay, you know. How are we going to deal with that particular elegance and extraordinariness? Yeah.
Thank you for that. I
Yeah.
think this is really true.
Yeah.
And we do, I mean, we do really, our world really is a reflection of what's going on inside.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not that clear.
No,
Because
Marike, once years and years ago, I won't tell enough pieces of the story for anybody to recognize it, but it's also more than 30 years ago, but I'll shift some details so that people are protected but I worked with a woman on phone. This is way before Zoom and things like that, so I never had seen her. And I was just starting my therapy practice, and she was bulimic, meaning she ate and then threw up and purged. And and uh, she was so concerned with her body size that she was hospitalized a couple of times because she went to the gym to work out, and she passed out because she had no calories in her, because there was nothing to burn, so she would pass out, right? And and she was at a distance from, so she was making phone calls. And then she came to the city that I was working in, and we had our first session. And I sat, I'm so embarrassed to say this story, but maybe this is the shame that you have. I'm so embarrassed to tell the story. And she sat across me, and she was wearing this perfume, and I usually don't like perfumes. And the way she was dressed and the way she looks, I was like, oh, and I got like dreamy. I became like infatuated by her, right? By the smell was making me like I'm intoxicated, right? I was good. And I was like, what do? I have to act neutral. I shouldn't be intoxicated like this is a client. But yet I was, part of me was going, whoa, oh my gosh, she's so attractive. And I could hardly think, you know. I was a man intoxicated by a beautiful woman, right? And I was, but yet I'm like, she needs help. She needs help. And I went to so I, right after the session, I called up my supervisor, my teacher, and said, she's going to come for other sessions, and I'm like not in good shape because I don't want to treat her like, I'm attracted to you, and that can mess up, make a personal intimacy, or I wasn't thinking of actually having a intimate relationship, but I was like, I want to be able to see this person. I don't want to be in the middle of I don't want to be drunk, quote unquote, in the session. And he said, what would you do if you were drunk? He's not saying to do this, right? What would you do? And I would say, you're amazing. You're gorgeous. You're incredible. And he said, she doesn't know that about herself. She's drawing that out of you. You have to let yourself gush, not about her sexiness and you're interested in her and things. You have to gush, be drunk. Can you follow? And the next session, when I said, you don't know how incredible you are. You don't know how amazing you are. You don't know how brilliant a person you are, how attractive you are to the world. And I just let myself go with that. And my
Wow.
feelings totally went away. I felt totally sober. My sort of like my fight with myself went away. I let myself do it. And she like cried. She was like, oh my gosh, I so needed to hear that about somebody. Now I'm not flirting with her anymore. Can you follow? I'm just giving her something that her her signals, the perfume, her signals, the communication is saying, fall down drunk in front of me. And in a sense, she needs that, not by people who don't know what's going on, who are manipulating her or in some kind of crazy, messed up dance, but somebody who really sees, I need that. Pour it out to me. Help me see this about myself. Yeah, that was really a huge thing for me to get that. I had another, you make me think of anyway, I'm telling some stories I don't know. You make
Oh,
me think.
please, let me tell me this last one.
There was another woman in my early practice. I'm embarrassed about these stories, and she would come to me and she would start talking about how she would go to certain places where she could be naked, into saunas and into camps. And she would start talking about how great it felt to be naked. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I started getting swoony, I'm thinking, I wonder what she's like naked. And I'm like, David, don't think this. Don't ever tell. You have to cancel all this stuff, right? But I was a younger person, and I had, and
And
I
this is
went to my
humor, I
supervisor,
think.
and I went to my supervisor, and I told him about that, and he said, she's talking about being naked, and I said yes, and he said, you have to ask her, please be more naked with me. Tell me what I can't see. Show me what's inside. Show me what nobody is able to see about you. And I said to her, yes, getting naked is so important. Let's get really naked. What does nobody see? What does nobody know about you? Can you follow? Not physically take off your clothes, but take off the mask that you wear in life. That was amazing. And and you know what? All the times that she got physically naked, nobody really saw her. Can you follow? Because they were so moved by the physical body that they would become blind, right? To who are you? What are you really like? And she became so shy and prudish in a way. Well, I don't know if I can show you. I don't want to tell you these things. So now all of a sudden, right, she wants to put more clothes on, quote unquote, more clothes on. So that was a really fascinating thing. So she's doing something, but she doesn't know what she's doing. She's trying to get more naked, but she doesn't know that she needs to be seen more deeply and more truly without the way she's presenting herself in life. Anyway, those two
Yeah,
stories I'm really embarrassed about as a man who
no.
wasn't only able to see clearly. And I guess that's human and stuff, but that's what I
I
learned.
think that I love that you just show up as a human. That I think that's what makes you the teacher that you are. I love that you share real stuff. And this story reminds me a lot of Marilyn Monroe, if I think about her and her need of getting naked and getting attentions, but in reality, she really needed to do the opposite.
Yeah. It's
To
huge. I
find
mean,
it.
this should be a celebration of the bodies, and as we know in the culture, that's been very difficult, and then people have abused, especially the female body, but the male body also. There's a celebration of should be more celebration of the body and the naked body and beautiful and all that stuff. Very difficult in a culture that objectifies and rape cultures, so that's a problematic thing. But we also live in a culture that's really hidden. You were saying that in your culture in Italy and other places where we get on social media, we want to be like, how should I be? And we want to make it all right. And then not enough shows. Well, you watched the Instagram live I did yesterday. There was a woman, a Korean woman. I can say this because she was out and doing this in public. And she was happy and intelligent and smiling and appreciative of me. Hey, this is great. I'm so happy to be here, and lots of smiles. And then she said, and also there are other parts of me. And then we asked what they were like. Oh, there are parts of me that are cry. Let me help you get in touch with feelings. And pretty soon she has her
Yeah,
hand over her face and
I
she's
love
sobbing. So it's so important. In some part, you can say the smiling part is more open, but it's more vulnerable to show to actually it's more vulnerable to put her hands over her face and hide and cry. It's to show that is more vulnerable. So she needs help then. I can be a smiling, intelligent person. That looked really good on her, and that really was her. But then it became even more shy to say, I want to hide. Isn't that interesting? It's more vulnerable to say I want to hide because we're hiding behind whatever, the masks that we wear, the face that we wear, the face we put on to meet the faces that we meet. T.S. Eliot said, the face we wear to meet the faces that we meet. I'll look this way, I'll look that way. That's fine. It's good to have that ability. I don't think people should not do that. But then connection and intimacy with another person or with the world. And I may have told you, or you may have known, I did this talk in Romania in 700 people in an audience. And I kept thinking, how do I get real with people when I put together a series of slides and I should follow the slides and all this stuff? And I was sitting in the morning thinking about it, and I had my hand like this on my arm. I was like, had my head on my arm, and I was sitting like this. And then I noticed my arm was sore. And I looked at it, and there was this bruise. It's like I banged it. I must not have known. It was this big red, black, and blue bruise on my arm. And
yeah.
I said to the arm, I'm paying attention to you. My arm is flirting with me. I'm calling, meaning it's catching my attention, like the rose, right? Like the car accident. Can't stop looking at it. Dear arm, what do you have to say? And it says, show your wounds. Don't be invisible. So I got on stage and I said, I have a wound. I would normally not show it. And I put it up so that everybody can see it in the camera. See this? This is my wounds. This is my bruises. I'm also nervous today. That's part of my insecurity in my life. I want to put that away also. What would happen if we didn't hide our wounds, but we showed them? Then we have an unshaming culture. And then it doesn't turn into only I'm a broken person. It turns into beauty. It turns into intimacy. It turns into real teaching. It doesn't turn into I'm a screwed up person. It turns, oh, thank you, David. You're a better teacher. It turns into beauty if we let it come out, right? If it's hidden and sneaks out, it doesn't look so good. But if it's really brought out, if you're the panther, the cheetah in you comes out all the way, then it doesn't look like an ego. It looks like grace and elegance and power and capacity.
And what about the vulnerability of the cheetah?
We'd have to ask the cheetah. We have to ask the cheetah. You have to tell me.
Okay.
When
Because
is when is the cheetah vulnerable, or is it you being vulnerable showing the cheetah? Which one do you think?
oh my God, I think it's a second probably.
I think right, because the just because you might say if you said that to me and we were working together, I'd say, what's the vulnerability like? And then you might show me. And then what you might show me is that you have some shame around the cheetah. So that
Yeah.
means the cheetah themselves, they're not thinking I'm vulnerable, I'm not vulnerable. They're not thinking I'm invulnerable, I'm not vulnerable. They're just thinking I'm cheetah, right? This is me. So that's a shamanic thing. Can you shapeshift into the cheetah? Then we ask the cheetah. The cheetah says, vulnerability, I'm not sure even what you mean. I don't know, am I vulnerable? Am I not vulnerable? I don't know. I don't use that word, right? I'm just like walking, sniffing for food or for a mate or for a place to rest. Those are my things, you know. Those are my three main things. Rest, food, and mating. That's what I do. So I'm not thinking about those other things. So inhabiting that, huge. And then jealousy, the problem of jealousy and manipulation and violation happens. Whenever a gift shows like the beauty of a thing and the intelligence of the thing, the whatever that thing is, when it shows, it attracts. And it attracts admiration and adoration and allies. I want, wow, can I teach you? You look like a great student, or let me help you be an actor. You have a skill, so it attracts that, and it attracts jealousy and violence naturally. If you see something beautiful, you kind of look at it and you either want to admire that flower or you want to pick it, right? And take it, or you kind of go, I wish I were like that, right? So that's nature. That's not like a good or bad thing. That's nature. But then you have to know that. How do I deal with those energies? And hiding those gifts doesn't stop that. You have to own them. The only thing that stops it is owning them and walking around in it as much as you can. Then it develops the right thing. It develops the right kind of people around you. And you also know some people are attracted to this to hurt me. And you have to be not think something's wrong with me. You have to know I see you have to see through the cheetah's eyes. I recognize that. That's that's not a predator, that's prey. I could manipulate that. That person's so blind and dumb, they don't even know I'm seeing them. I could dump them, I could get them to do things. Then you have to treat them like a lower form, like the cheetah would treat something. Don't treat yourself as small or treat them as smaller from the cheetah's eyes. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I love that.
Isn't that amazing to do that?
It's amazing. And I think it's a passage that so many people need to hear,
Yeah.
especially women.
Yeah. Own the things that live in you. And then if the culture doesn't see them, it's more difficult, right? If the culture doesn't see it because it's not culturally favored, then it's more difficult. Then you have to spend more time and you need people around you. Like in the Black community, it used to be Black power. Those words were very important. And Black beauty, those are very important things for a whole group of people to talk about because people looked at a darker skinned person and didn't see power and beauty. Other qualities, intelligence also, but people didn't see that. So people had to use those words. Don't forget, even though you have kinky hair and wide hips and broad nose, I have to remind you you're beautiful. So, and walk around like you're beautiful so that you don't believe the collective hypnosis that's not true of you. So that if you have less of the things that the culture is looking at, then you need more solidarity, more building up, more protection, more reflection, more witnessing. You're incredible. Wow, that's you. That's your special qualities. They need to be a lot of people to see them, not to hold them down, but to make sure you got big love around those qualities. That protects you to know it and to think, I love this about myself. I love this about myself. I like it. I love this about myself. That's incredible. That protects people in a big way, more than hiding it. But hiding for a while sometimes is the only protection we have. Yeah.
I love that.
Oh,
And also, Rosanna's also speaking about boundaries. You shared something about boundaries a couple of days ago, saying that you don't have to learn how to set up boundaries. You have to go back to that cause that is not allowing you to set them in your life. I think it's
yeah.
very much related.
Yeah,
That's
boundaries. People lose their touch with boundaries because there was an earlier abuse and trauma. That means something violated the person. Maybe it looks small. It's not a as be like a rape or a beating or something. Maybe it looks small. That doesn't mean it is, just looks that way. But something that person wasn't allowed to curl up or fight back or yell, do the things that are natural, and nobody else did that. Hey, that's Marte, my friend. You can't treat her like that in front of me.
right.
So if that happens from you or for you, then the boundary system learns that it's a normal, good thing, you're free to have it. But if you don't have that, somebody doing that, and you aren't free to have that, then you lose touch with that system. Then it lives in shame and it needs to be seen again. We got to go pretty soon, though. I'm just looked at our time.
I know. I'm gonna ask you, the last question is very short. So it's just that
Hey,
the
ask
way
me the last question.
it's just the way I close this show. It's more about you than me or than the topic. I always ask my guests one question, which is, who is the person David is becoming?
Who is the person David's becoming? One thing that's happening in my life that I'm also a little shy about, but I'm a I'm becoming a person who's more on stage, like you,
Yeah,
more
like an
on
actor.
stage, like an actor, because what's growing in me and has been, although I've been shyer about, my way of educating deep down is something more like a performance art than it is a lecture. It just happened. What happened? My performance is about James, so that's my content. I know that, but
You are a performer.
I want to
Absolutely.
perform. I want
Yeah.
to show the dance. I want to, and that's
Love
how.
this definition. I just love it. And I can see that so much. And that's why
Yeah,
you are having so much success, because I think you're really owning this part of you of being the performer who takes it.
it's
Being
coming.
the teacher, the healer, the entertainer also, you know, the
Yeah,
poet and the artist, everything it's in there.
yeah. I want to move people, not just teach their brains things. I like to do that, but I want them to walk away kind of going, whoa, what happened to me? I'm feeling this. I'm wondering, I'm dreaming at night about this. I'm crying about something. I'm proud of something. I want them to be emotionally moved as more than even understand the ideas that I have. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to
So
thank you for being here. Just let me wrap up and I say you hi as I stop recording. So really, I think this has been very inspirational and I really appreciate your presence in the
yeah.
show. Thank you
Thank
so
you so much. I love being here.
much. Stop